Good afternoon, I'm Byron Schaller. I'm here today to talk to you about automating your unit integration tests for infrastructure as code. After you've gone down this whole path of automating your whole infrastructure and you're doing infrastructure as code, it's really important that you're using the same kind of SDLC practices that you would be using with any other kind of code. So make sure that you do your integration tests and your unit tests. Make sure that you're not doing that in production and you know what you're going to get when you deploy all of your code. The best way to do this is with pipelines. So building a pipeline allows you to just deploy your code as you would any other way, but once you deploy it, you're going to be able to get all those tests kicked off in an automated fashion. So there are three different kinds of pipelines you need depending on the code that we're talking about here. For config management, like Chef, Puppet, Ansible, whatever, you have that for unit testing. You have image testing if you're doing some immutable infrastructure with VM images, AMIs, or Docker containers, whatever. And then you're going to have to test your whole infrastructure together for some real integration testing to make sure that these new services are going to play with the others nicely. So the tools we're going to talk about here, we got Jenkins for the pipeline management, Chef to do the config management, Terraform for the full integration of the infrastructure. We got Packer for images, and then things like Confluence, HipChat, or Slack to do some kind of inter-team communication. We've got Server Spec for our testing framework, and GitHub and Garrett Code Review for all of the code. So config management unit testing. So once you get your cookbook or your playbook or your module ready to go, you need to really run through this pipeline through Jenkins to make sure that everything works the way you think it's going to work. So the first thing here we're going to do is we're going to commit our code. We're going to upload that to some kind of VCS, whether that's GitHub or GitLab or whatever, and then we're going to kick off some Garrett Code Review to make sure that we get a +1 from our teammates and everyone agrees that this code is ready for production. After this, we're going to do some style and syntax checking, do some grammar, make sure that our code looks good. In the Chef case, Food Critic is great for this. And then we're going to validate. So going through and actually kicking off some kind of Vagrant box, some kind of slave on our Jenkins box, to go and kick that code off through Test Kitchen to make sure everything looks right and feels right as far as our code goes. After that goes, we're going to tell our teammates what's going on. So whether that's HipChat or Slack or just going to kick something off with an email, make sure that everyone knows that the code is good, that it's going to be pushed, and then we're ready to go live. For that, we're going to do another +1 from our teammates in Slack or whatever, make sure that they all agree, and then we're going to push to production and just go ahead and knife it in. For that, we've got our new code pushed and is now live, and we go back to step 1 again. Same thing kind of applies for building images. So we're going to go ahead and do this with Packer. We're going to do a upload to our repo. We're going to make sure that our Packer templates are in our code repository, and we're going to make sure that our artifacts, whatever we need, is in our artifact repository and are ready to go. Same kind of workflow, just a little bit different. This time we're going to kick off the Packer validate to make sure that our grammar and syntax all looks good. We're going to go ahead and build it out and kick that binary file out to get staged. We're going to run our testing with either Server Spec or Inspec or some kind of testing framework based on Ruby to make sure that all of our image looks good. It runs right, all of the apps are set up correctly. Again, we're going to notify everybody out that things have gone well, either pass, fail. And then we're going to do something cool here with Packer Inspect. We can kick off an automated documentation page in our Confluence or whatever wiki you really want to. And then we're going to go ahead and push that up to our binary artifact repo, whether that's Atlas in the case of HashiCorp, Artifactory, and then go from there, and then we're ready to push to production. So now we've got all kinds of code up there. We got our Chef cookbooks. We've got all of our images in Packer. Now we're going to put it all together and build our entire infrastructure, but we're going to test the whole thing before we go. So again, the same thing as before: code commit, going through your code review with Git or whatever to make sure that all of our teammates give it a +1, and we're ready to go and get that up into our infrastructure. This time, instead of Packer validate, we're going to do a Terraform validate, same kind of thing, syntax, grammar, all that good stuff. Then we're going to run a Terraform plan. Plan's going to go off and kick everything out and say what it's going to look like, but not actually run anything. So it's more of a dry run of our whole environment. Again, we're going to do the documentation phase with Confluence. We're going to kick it off with a Terraform plan. This time, pipe that out, and so we have a full page in our Confluence now of what this plan itself is going to do. Then we're going to go ahead and apply. We're going to kick it off and make all those AMIs or VMs or Docker containers or whatever appear in our network. We're going to test it because this is all going to be fenced off. So this is where server spec or inspec comes in again, and this time we're not testing the images, we've done that, we're testing the integration between all of it. So are all the ports talking, are all the services running, everything is as we expect it to be. In the case of compliance with inspec, we can go off and kick that to our security team so they see that all of our security stuff, compliance stuff is all up to snuff and we're ready to go. We're going to kick this off again through HipChat, Slack, email, whatever, and then we're going to graph it. So Terraform has this awesome function called graph, where it's going to give us a visualization of our entire infrastructure, all the dependencies, what relies on what talks to what gets built before what, and so we can document that in Confluence as well with to go alongside our regular documentation. After that, we're going to go ahead and destroy our entire test environment, clean that all up, make sure all those VMs go away, we're not using up resources, and then we're going to go ahead and promote to production, and we're ready to go. All right, so thank you for your time. That's how you test infrastructure as code. So.